This year's from Variety from March 12th, 2024. It's pretty new, and it says, Neil Young says he's returning to Spotify 2 years after pulling music in protest over Joe Rogan's podcast. For full transparency, I am a Neil Young fan, or at least of his older music from the 60s and 70s. But I'm going to say a few things that aren't quite on Neil's side. So let's see what we got. Neil Young's bringing his music back to Spotify because he said Apple and Amazon have started serving the same disinformation in podcasts drove him to quit Spotify more than 2 years ago. And Young said he can't boycott Apple Music and Amazon Music because then his music would have very little streaming outlet to music lovers all over the world. Here's my thing. Obviously, Neil Young got pretty political during the beer bug and times like that when the vaccine was a debate. He took a side, he made a stance. He got political. Now, in the past, maybe Neil Young did get political, but it was more about things that I think everyone agreed on, or most people agreed on, like when there was students shot in Ohio, long time ago, in a college. I'm not going to get into details, but the point is, it was something everyone could get behind. This was a divisive issue that was split down the middle. And once you take a stand, you should keep taking a stand. If you're going to say, you know what, Joe, I don't like what you're saying politically about this thing. I'm pulling my music. I'm Neil Young. Here we go. Don't back down. Don't change your mind. Keep your stance going. Keep on rocking in the free world. But don't back down. Not 2 years after. What else we got? In January 2022, Young demanded that Spotify pull his tracks off its service in protest of the company's failure to curb the beer bug, let's just say, information in the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. He said Spotify can have Rogan or Young, not both. I remember the article. Spotify removed Young's songs on January 26th. Spotify has recently become a very damaging force via its public misinformation and lies about the beer bug, the pandemic, whatever you want to say, Young wrote at the time. So obviously Joe Rogan is the biggest podcaster in the world to this day and was back then, so they're not going to choose Neil Young over him. Neil Young's a legend. He's a great musician, especially back in his day, but now, not so much. He's just another musician kind of, putting out songs as what I'd call an aftermath career. If you look at the mainstream now, the youth, the young people, what's going on? And Joe Rogan, of course, as I said, #1 in the world. Then they say he's coming back to Spotify. They mention he's 78 and in the Rock Hall of Fame. No question about his talent here. That's not the issue. Neil Young's unique. So he announced that Spotify will be his home once again for his music. And reiterates that Apple and Amazon have started serving the same disinformation on their podcast as Spotify. Well, maybe, just maybe, it's not disinformation in this case. It could be, but why take a stance, man? Stay neutral. I wish these actors in Hollywood and musicians would just fucking stay neutral politically. They're not any smarter than anyone else, really. They've got talent. Some of them, I dare to say, got lucky. Luck's a part of it because, when a million people want to be musicians, it's not like only the talented ones or the top ones make it. There's some luck involved. But the point being, stick to the arts, make it good, and if you get political, well, realize you might have to pay a price for that. They also say Young didn't elaborate on what disinformation. Of course not. And they quote him saying he hopes Spotify users enjoy his music and all that kind of thing he would naturally just say. So my point here is, A, I wish political stances weren't taken so much by Hollywood and the entertainment field and music. But B, if you do take a political stance, don't back down. Take your stance and stick with it. Unless something really changes and you admit you were wrong or something. He's not admitting he's wrong. He's just saying, well, the same stuff is out there on these other places, so I guess I could go back to Spotify now. Let me know what you think in the comments. Doing pop culture, entertainment, things like that. Still following Depp and Heard when something comes up. Little Manson. If not subscribed here, consider it. If you don't, I'll be sad, but I'll get over it. See you next time.